Imagine arriving somewhere a few minutes late. The room is already quiet, everyone is seated, and the moment you step inside, it feels like every person notices you. Maybe your shirt has a stain, maybe your hair looks terrible, maybe you're sweating. In your mind, everyone sees every detail and immediately starts judging. But reality is usually much less dramatic. A couple of people may glance toward the door. Someone else might look up for a second and immediately return to their phone. Most people will not notice the stain, your hair, or anything else you were worried about. And even those who noticed, you probably forgot within moments. Psychologists call this the spotlight effect, our tendency to dramatically overestimate how much attention other people are paying to us. A famous experiment at Cornell University demonstrated this beautifully. Psychologist Thomas Gilovich and his colleagues asked students to wear an embarrassing t-shirt featuring Barry Manilow, someone many college students at the time would not have wanted displayed across their chest. The students entered a room filled with other people, stayed briefly, then left. Researchers asked them how many people they believed had noticed the shirt. Their estimate was around half the room, but when the people inside were questioned, fewer than 1/4 had actually noticed it. The students felt almost twice as visible as they really were. Researchers repeated the experiment using shirts associated with people students actually admired. The result barely changed. Whether the attention would have been positive or embarrassing, people consistently believed others noticed them more than they actually did. The same thing happened during conversations. Students thought everyone remembered their clever comments, awkward pauses, mistakes, and embarrassing moments. Most people barely noticed. Why? Because you experience your life from inside your own head. You feel every heartbeat when you're nervous. You hear the tiny crack in your voice. You know exactly where the stain on your shirt is. You remember the sentence you wish you had said differently. So when you imagine what other people saw, you begin with your own intense awareness of the moment. And you forget that everyone else is doing exactly the same thing with themselves. Think about the last stranger you shared an elevator with. What shoes were they wearing? What did their hair look like? Were they nervous? Did they have a blemish on their face? You probably cannot remember. Yet that person may have spent 20 minutes worrying about their appearance before leaving home. You weren't studying them. You were thinking about your own day. And while you were background scenery in their life, they were background scenery in yours. That is the strange truth behind the spotlight effect. Almost everyone feels watched. Almost nobody is watching. There is a reason your brain behaves this way, and it reaches much further back than classrooms, offices, or social media. For most of human history, people lived in small communities where reputation genuinely mattered. If a group contained only 100 people, everyone knew who you were. Being rejected by that group could mean losing protection, food, shelter, and safety. Standing out could carry a real cost. So the human brain became extremely sensitive to signs of judgment. It learned to notice eyes turning toward us, changes in someone's expression, or anything suggesting that we might be rejected. That system helped our ancestors survive. The problem is that the environment changed much faster than the brain did. Today, you can pass hundreds of strangers without ever seeing them again. Yet, a part of your mind still reacts as though every person in the room belongs to a tiny tribe whose opinion determines your future. It keeps warning you. They're watching. Most of the time, they aren't. It's called the illusion of transparency. We tend to believe other people can see what is happening inside us much more clearly than they actually can. Imagine giving a presentation while your heart is racing. Your hands feel tense, your stomach is turning. Inside your body, the anxiety feels enormous. So you assume the audience must see it too. But experiments show otherwise. Researchers ask nervous people to give speeches, then estimate how obvious their anxiety had been. The speakers believed everyone could tell how uncomfortable they felt. The audience saw far less nervousness than the speakers imagined. Another experiment involved people tasting different drinks while observers watched their reactions. Some drinks were pleasant, others were unpleasant. The tasters thought their faces clearly revealed what they were experiencing. The observers were much worse at reading them than expected. Your inner experience feels obvious because you are trapped inside it. Other people are not. The fear in your chest is not being broadcast across the room. The embarrassment making your face feel hot does not automatically tell everyone what you're thinking. The sadness you carried into a conversation may be almost completely invisible unless you choose to reveal it. People cannot read your mind nearly as well as you imagine, and simply knowing that can change how you behave. In another study, researchers explained the illusion of transparency to people before they gave a speech. They were told that their nervousness would probably be much less visible than it felt. Something remarkable happened. They became less anxious. But more importantly, they actually performed better. Observers rated them as more confident and composed than people who had not been given the same information. Nothing about their speaking ability suddenly changed. They simply stopped wasting energy trying to hide emotions nobody could clearly see in the first place. And that is where this research becomes more than an interesting psychological fact. It becomes useful because once you realize the audience in your head is much larger than the audience in reality, you can finally stop performing for people who are barely paying attention. You might think social media changes all of this. After all, platforms are built around visibility. Views, followers, likes, comments, screenshots. Everything seems designed to remind you that people could be watching. And yet, the same illusion follows us online. You can spend 20 minutes rewriting a caption because you're convinced everyone will analyze it. Most people will never see the post. Many who do see it will look for less than a few seconds before continuing to scroll. Why? Because they are not thinking deeply about your post. They're thinking about themselves. They're wondering whether their own picture looks good, whether anyone noticed their story, whether their comment sounded strange, whether they are being judged. Everyone feels like the main character while imagining everyone else is the audience. But everyone else feels exactly the same way. Think about how much this belief may have already cost you. How many times did you stay quiet because you were afraid of saying something stupid? How many questions did you avoid asking? How many conversations never started because you worried the other person might judge you? How many things did you refuse to try because failing publicly seemed unbearable? You may have spent years managing the reactions of an audience that barely existed. That awkward sentence you said last week probably isn't keeping the other person awake. They're remembering something embarrassing they said themselves. The coworker who watched you stumble in the hallway probably forgot within minutes. That word you mispronounced in front of your class may still feel painfully clear in your memory. But most of the people who heard it probably cannot remember the moment at all. You remember because it happened to you. They forgot because it didn't. That difference matters. The research does not say nobody will ever notice you or judge you. Sometimes people will. It says the amount of attention you imagine is usually far greater than the amount that actually exists. And there is freedom in that. If there is no giant spotlight following you everywhere, then you do not need to spend your entire life acting for an invisible audience. Eat alone if you want to. Wear something because you genuinely like it. Ask the question, even if it might sound obvious. Start the conversation. Share the idea. Try something you may not immediately be good at. Fail occasionally. The embarrassment will probably feel enormous inside your own mind. From everyone else's perspective, it may barely register. Your brain is still trying to protect you from an ancient social world where rejection could mean losing your tribe. But that tribe is no longer surrounding you. Most people are too busy worrying about their own lives to carefully examine yours. So the next time you walk into a room and suddenly feel every eye turning toward you, remember what psychology keeps showing us. They are probably not thinking about you. They're wondering whether you're thinking about them. This is Vesper. The spotlight was never as bright as it felt.